You see, this is really, really concerning. I really am not an advocate of this Mahmood woman, and I think she's actually probably a favourite of the Lady Chief Justice. She's basically she's a Lord Chancellor at the moment. She's one of the champions of Starmer's government, but this is what she said, right? She's saying, in many cases, victims are waiting years to see their perpetrators put before a judge. And we know for many victims, justice delayed is as good as justice denied. Well, I don't know how she can say that when they've been literally denying and delaying all of our political rights, okay? And they really haven't, they've been making a show out of stretching it out, basically. Even with the Speaker of Parliament, you know, and it's the thing is, they want to when they want to resolve it their way, they're actually dragging it out even longer when they could have and should have given immediate resolution and effect, which they could. So, I mean, they're actually purposely delaying and denying, in order to get something that they want out of it, a resolution, which is, it's no good. I mean, the whole point is not to suffer that, and they're suffering people that. We owe it to victims to find bold, innovative approaches that will speed up justice, deliver safer streets, and send a clear message to criminals that they will quickly face the consequences of their actions. Well, basically that means that they, this is all wrong, what she's saying, right? Because, firstly, it's not very Christian at all. People deserve a fair trial. That's the point in justice. The whole existence of the courts is to get all the facts and evidence out and have a look at what happened, and then have a jury of people, decide what should happen, right? And that's if the person even pleads not guilty, right? Obviously, if you plead guilty, you don't even get a jury. But there's still this. The thing with the Magna Carta, it says, as allowed by, basically, right, it says that by the law of the land or by judgment of their peers. But when it's by the law of the land, okay, if you plead guilty, then you don't get you don't have a jury, really. You're not meant to have a jury, right? If you plead guilty. So then you get the law is applied automatically, right? You only get the jury if you plead not guilty, because then you get a jury, right? If you plead guilty, then you just get the law applied with sentencing, right? So really, that to me, that's the pivotal thing between the plea, right? What you're going to plead guilty or not guilty. If you go to a crown court and you plead guilty, you're not meant to have a jury. You're meant to go straight for sentencing, right? So you get the law of the land applied, right? If you say you're not guilty, then you're meant to have a jury. Now, I know some judges say, they can choose whether there's a jury or not. But, well, you choose whether there's a jury or not because it depends on what your plea is, right? They took juries out of magistrates' courts. And also, another thing is, by the law of the land, means if you're applying rights, if you're claiming a particular right, which might be an overriding objective right, then that's the law of the land being applied, and it has to be applied to effect, and the judge has to comply with that and apply it, right? So you don't necessarily need to look at evidence. By the law of the land also means rights. This is one of the things when you put the Bill of Exemption through, right? The Statute of Westminster II, the Bill of Exemption, is, if you're arguing on a point of law, on a legal point of law or legislative fact, or applying a right, claiming a right, and the judge doesn't accept it, and you're contesting it with him that he's wrong, right? And that's what the Bill of Exemption's for. It's not on anything that is, either way decidable. Like, what did John do on a Friday? And then you listen to statements and put some evidence there, and people have got to decide what he did based on the evidence and facts. That's debatable. No one knows for sure, right? So that's not, when a jury comes to a verdict or decision on that, or a judge, right? That's not an argument over a fact like a law or a right which exists, which you are claiming and you have a valid claim to, and then he's refusing it when you actually are validly eligible to it. You have a right to have it, or it must be applied, right? So I think that it's been misconstrued, this whole Magna Carta thing, by the law of the land or a jury, and they've stolen away the juries from the magistrates' courts and the civil courts to rip us off, basically, to rip off us, because they don't actually want us to have judgment by peers. And the thing is that I don't think that when you go into a magistrate's court that you're getting a justice from your equals, because it's these magistrates who are volunteers, and they've been sworn in, and there's no jury there, but they're called magistrates. They're not just justices of the peace anymore. And this whole kind of like Your Honour and this whole stand up, sit down thing, they're meant to be a mediator, a facilitator, right? That's why they've got the honours, because they're a mediator, a facilitator. Okay, you meant to have your, in your legal advisor and so forth. But there's meant to be a jury, right? People who are like from similar background and life to you, who think what is normal behaviour or what is fair or just, and based on lifestyle, situation, financial things, how should a normal person behave? What's right and wrong? And in those circumstances, and also there's this forgiveness element as well. Which obviously, if you're pleading guilty, you see, I'm quite sure that the juries were just there all the time, and people were coming through the courts and going on trial, and the juries were just in all day, weren't they? I'm interested to find out whether the juries were sort of like just there, and then people were coming in and how do you plead guilty or not guilty, and then this is the thing. Although the jury comes out with a verdict, like guilty or not guilty, but there was also, I'm sure there was some engagement in the jury to do with sentencing, but I'm not sure 100% on that. That's the one thing I'm not sure about. But if that's true, then they've been completely removed of that. But if they didn't have a role in that, then fair enough. But I'm sure that the juries had some kind of sort of more of a role in the sentencing, not just purely to come out with a verdict, guilty or not guilty. Although the justices apply the sentencing now, but I think I probably might be wrong about that. But anyway, right. So this Shabana Mahmood, right? I'm definitely not a fan of her through what she's written on this. Anyway, right? It says in many cases, victims are waiting years to see their perpetrator put before a judge. Well, I know some people who have appealed and they've got to wait months, right? And I know some people who are appealing and like some Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil cases, they've been waiting a few years, but that was only mainly because of the pandemic created this backlog. I know someone who's just appealed and they already had a case. They're only waiting a couple of months and then they've just had it put off. So I don't really think there is that much of a wait. I think they've created this backlog, right? In the same way that they set up the traffic light settings on the roads and on the motorways, and then they caused backlog, and also they were just dropping it down spontaneously to 20 mile an hour when there was nothing there, and finding people. They're creating the backlog by mismanagement on purpose, I think, in order to try and push this through. I really think this Mahmood woman is definitely on the side of this sort of Starmer government, Fabian movement. In many cases, victims are waiting years to see their perpetrators put before a judge. Well, this is the thing. To see them. Mahmood's words sound like she really wants to see them get put before a judge. If you've been a victim of a crime, right, you report it, but, maybe you're not too keen on wanting to see it. She's wanting to see it. It's almost like she's going to get some kind of pleasure out of it or relief, If you've been put, this is the thing, right? If you've had a crime against you, right, then the thing with civil cases, right? If someone owes you money, you really want the money, right? You want to see the money. You need the money. Now, they used to go and arrest people. You could have them arrested when people owed money. But this is all to do with rich and poor and the uprising of factories and, that the first main big factory in Derbyshire, and, Telford and all this kind of industrial revolution. And then, them trying to take power away from the working class when they had fair trials, right? And also they've got all these automated speeding things. And it's almost kind of like this Mahmood. She wants to see people punished and fined for speeding because she thinks that they deserve it, not members of the public or someone like that, And this is this whole belief to do with, this happened, right? This thing happened. We've got it on film. Therefore, Mahmood wants to see every single one of those persons fined, right? Because they did it, and she's the judge of that, or the camera's the judge of it, right? She definitely doesn't believe in the fact, right, that you go into a court and, a jury can, think, well, I might have done that, or, what's wrong with that? If you're late for work, it says that, if you've got a schedule to keep with your employer, on your job, then, it can be used as a defence. The person might have pleaded not guilty. Well, you only plead a defence if you plead not guilty, don't you? You're defending, right? That's the thing, this is the thing with guilty, But the thing with Mahmood, it's like, did you go at 500 mile an hour or whatever? Or did you go at 70 mile an hour or 60 or 50, right? You either did or you didn't. But that's the thing. With the speeding thing, it's like, this is the thing. All right, you were going at 30 mile an hour, but that's the thing. So you're saying that you did do what the camera saw you do, but you don't plead guilty, do you? Because it says that if you've got a schedule to keep and your employer and you might lose your job and your livelihood or whatever, then it can be used as a defence, right? So if you're defending, you're not saying you're guilty, are you? Because that's not defending yourself. Unless you're saying you're guilty and it's in mitigating circumstances. But then you're pleading guilty, so you get convicted, but that's not defending yourself against the charge. If you it doesn't say that it can be used as mitigating circumstances to a guilty plea, does it? It says it can be used as a defence against a criminal charge, right? So you're saying that you were going to 30 mile an hour, right? But you're saying that, I shouldn't be convicted because, I had a schedule to keep, right? This is the thing. And therefore the jury, obviously, if they say not guilty, but this is the thing. You're not getting juries for those speeding offences and they won't even give you a lawyer because they just want to do loads of them. And this is the thing, right? They're saying that there's that many court cases going through now that people are having to wait ages to get justice because there's so many. Well, this is the thing. They could have said that with speeding offences, which is why they come up with this fast-track system so they could get loads of people. What Mahmood wants to do is set up something similar to how they've got up with speeding fines, but for all crime. But the thing with them with the speeding things is that it's illegal. because you're not getting a fair trial. They're taking your chatels off you when it's not really a felony, and the police chief is holding pleas, right? It's not how we do justice in this country. It's not how, and I'm going to say this, right? It's not how native white British people do justice. It's not what they believe in, and it's not the right thing to do, right? And I resent Mahmood for what she is attempting to bring into this legal system in this country, right? It's not Christian. It isn't Christian. And that's for sure. We owe it to victims to find bold, innovative approaches that will speed up justice, deliver safer streets, and send a clear message to criminals that they will quickly face consequences of their actions. But what do you mean she owe it? We owe it to... No one's owed anything, right? It's not civil. It's not a civil debt. We owe it to victims. But what do they owe? If the King's law is that if someone does a certain thing, right, it's an offence against it's against the King's peace, right? You don't owe them any money, right? If you do it, right, if you go to a school, right, okay, and you mess around in class, you used to get sent to the headmaster, right, and he smack your hand, right? That's punishment, right? But you don't give the other class any money, right? You don't give the teacher any money. You don't owe anyone any money, right? The smack on the hand is, supposed to be punishment to stop you doing it again, right? But it's not. You don't owe anyone anything. Another thing, right? I mean, there's so much to say about this, right? Firstly, right, I don't know if we went back in time now, right, to like 1800, say, for example, and Mahmood was Chancellor of England, right? I don't think that she'd abolish arrest on mesne process. I don't think she would. I think Mahmood would like to go arrest people if they owed her money, right? And the quicker the better. It's a miracle. It's British belief systems that abolished that because it was inconvenient. But strategically, as these mill owners, rich people, ended up taking over factories, right? What happens if they didn't pay their workers, or they couldn't pay their workers, right? For a few weeks or whatever, you'd have the workers then going arresting their boss because they owed them money, right? And therefore you'd have people, affluent rich people, who weren't necessarily members of the House of Lords or Commons getting arrested. Now, as those, particularly through the Luddites period when they were complaining about low wages, right? And therefore, really, the arrest on mesne process, I don't really think it's for working class people's privilege. It is a new privilege because everyone's got the privilege of not being arrested on mesne process. But why would, I don't think that the government gave a damn about that. The government abolished arrest on mesne process so that rich people couldn't get arrested by poor people if they owed them money, right? Particularly when all these businesses started getting big and taking off, and more skilled people became redundant and became employed by mass factories, right? Because then, if you don't pay your workers, right, the workers can't arrest the people in charge, right? That's the reason. And what we say, well, what about everyone else? Well, screw everyone else. These people, don't really care about what money is owed between poor people, workers, it's peanuts. This is why they've given us this rubbish online civil claims form that's only for small amounts of money. You can't go on there, really. It's not really set up or designed just because you want a decision. It's the decision that's powerful. What does this mean? This legal point, am I right about this legal point? That's the muscle, that's the strength, If you could just go online and say, yeah, what is the meaning of this? Right, ordered, that is the meaning of that. Then you're talking, I don't want any money from anyone. I want to know what is the meaning of this. Well, I'll tell you what the meaning of this is. I'm a judge, right? You got that written down on a paper with a judge's stamp on it. This is the meaning of this, right? Then when you go to another judge, then what is the meaning of this? Well, he says, I'm telling you, he's telling you what it means. The judge told me what it means, right? But they don't want that. And in many cases, the meaning of it fluctuates depending on, what they fancy. So, the inconvenience of Mesne process was abolished for everyone, right? No one gets arrested or goes to prison for owing anyone any money unless, when an order comes that, they have to pay it. If they don't pay it, they can get the bailiffs round. But that is only because if they don't pay the money, right? Now, what I wanted to mention, you see, Leeveson's doing this independent inquiry, right, into the court system. Right to jury trial is under threat as Leeveson is asked to carry out a once-in-a-generation review of courts. Well, I've actually recommended that we have more jury trials or smaller courts or smaller little kind of like mini courts where you just get a prosecutor and six random people together and they kind of like they need to speak to these people and find out why they're doing these crimes, and the public don't need to fear these people and be scared of them. They need to get to know them and question them and want to, who is this person? What compelled them to do these crimes? What are the living conditions? You want to find out what's going on, what happened and why they done it. And then maybe the juries of these people might start figuring out, what's going on, we need more people on jury duty. Maybe they can, the police can't solve it. The government can't solve it. Maybe we can, people start finding out, get to the bottom of it, what's happening, and, if they're going to lie, then they're going to lie anyway, but at least they can have a good chance of trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. This is the thing. And the whole thing about us not having any money and because we can't afford the court system is just tosh. We should. Retired High Court judge told that nothing is off the table to reform the courts. And the backlog. Well, it's their own fault for a backlog because immigration. This is the thing. Starmer's encouraging people to come into the country and helping them out. And then the courts are even ordering that people have got the right to, refugees have got the rights to come over. But then they're complaining that the court system's too full. But this is the thing. Mahmood said the scale of the Crown Court crisis is inherited by this government is unprecedented. Well, no, it's not. It's manufactured. It's been manufactured by manufacturing. It's been manufactured by mass production, mass manufacturing, lobbying for companies, refusing to give minimum wages to people when they petitioned for it, and then they revolted because they weren't given it. It's manufactured by greed and excess, right? And then they're having wars and forcing us to fight. Governments are sending us to war. I don't know any citizens who have asked, or, excuse me, please can we have a war? If there's one petition that's asking us to go to war, I'd like to see it, but I don't think there are any. The governments are sending us to war against each other because of their disputes about manufacturing and their lawmaking, and not laws that we've petitioned for, laws that their political parties have come up with. So I think the political parties are really behind the wars. It's political parties of different countries that are behind the wars, not citizens. But the citizens are getting blamed for it. And, these governments won't set higher minimum wages. And they've created people like Bill Gates and allowed them to do what they're doing. And rewarded them for it. And then he's bought them a new innovation technology centre so they can punish us more and do these faster, speeding tickets, all the, and now they're wanting a faster crime process. And then they built us computers so we could get files on them, and then they could go do us for more crimes, which is what I want to get onto in a minute, which is this. To deliver the government's bold plan for change and make our streets safer, we require once-in-a-generation reform. Well, safer, what they've done is basically put fences around schools, right? But why do that? That's not progress. How can it be progress to have fence around a school? Or just what I always wanted. Progress is not requiring or needing fences around schools ever, because no one would want to commit a crime and no one would distrust anyone, right? But Mahmood believes that this is great, this is brilliant, right? Since when did we need fences around schools? Well, we do now, but no, it's not the fact that we never needed them. It's the fact we could never afford them. It's just what Mahmood always wanted. Mahmood always wanted fences around schools. Why didn't they have them around there in the 1600s? Well, we couldn't afford it. There was something missing around here. Could just do with a fence around this school, right? No, never needed them. It's not progress. We're not going in the right direction, right? So, it's not a new set in a new generation. Progress is, right, taking fences down from schools. So then, on a Saturday, you can go in there, sit down, and say, oh, I used to go to this school. It brings back great memories, value, safety, trust, memories, roots, growing up, right? None of those things seem to be on Mahmood's agenda. All Mahmood wants is keep the strange people away from the school, right? Keep the strange people away from this school. Keep the children locked in the school, right? Write these things down on paper. Keep the children locked in the school, right? Keep the strange people away from the school. Write that down, right? Or, I trust these people. These are nice people. I like this school. This is a nice neighborhood. I like this school. I used to go there. I'm from this area, right? What is the difference? The scale of the Crown Court crisis inherited by this government is unprecedented. Despite the efforts of judges, lawyers and court staff, we simply cannot continue with the status quo. In many cases, victims are waiting years to see their perpetrator put before a judge. And we know for many victims, justice delayed is as good as justice denied. We owe it to victims to find bold, innovative approaches that will speed up justice, deliver safer streets, and send a clear message to criminals that they will quickly face the consequences of that. Well, there's already too many people on the streets. This is the thing, right? Quiet little village, right, in North Yorkshire, right? Okay? Where's the need for more justice there, right? Not everywhere is a city. It's almost kind of like that kind of statement is almost like you want there to be more crime, isn't it? it's almost kind of like, you can't get enough of it. It's almost like, we owe it to victims to find bold, innovative approaches that will speed up justice and deliver safer streets, and send a clear message to criminals that they will quickly face the consequences of their actions. But face the consequences of their actions. Well, the consequences of their actions are their actions themselves. We owe it to victims to find bold, innovative approaches. A lot of the time, you don't. If you have a bold, innovative approach, you never become a victim because you don't do anything stupid in the first place, or you can read a situation or read people and not end up with an incident occurring. Spot an incident before it happens. So this part here, right? This part here, it is just preposterous because. So this is preposterous that what is actually happening with this? Well, so take this guy for example, this funky prepper guy, right? He said that in this second video down, it says he was banned from all social media for 4 weeks or something, right? And he's basically talking about the police coming around and raiding his house. And even though he'd not actually been convicted, and even though there was actually no evidence to prove that he'd done anything, and he's innocent until proved guilty, they took all these things and said that he got to agree to these terms and conditions where he couldn't use social media, and then they send all his personal private stuff off to be checked, right? And it's actually a very traumatic and psychologically damaging, injuring experience, right? And what I've come to realise, this is the thing that I've realised now with what is going on. These people who have their social media, these offences, certain offences, right, where the police come and take their things, even though they're not actually proved guilty by a court, and all these new laws where they're allowed to confiscate things and go through all your stuff, and then you've got to go to all these agreements that you won't go online or do anything, right? What I've actually come to realise this is, that is a punishment. It's actually worse than, I think it's probably worse than community service. It's actually worse than being actually found guilty and given a sentence on community service, for like, I don't know, say like 20 hours or something like that, right? 20, 30 hours. I mean, this guy was in a police station for 12 hours anyway, right? Now, the thing is, it's inconvenient and it's psychologically injurious, particularly if you end up not being charged. This is without actually being charged, by the way, right? And without being convicted, right? Now, to be put through that is just unacceptable. And the thing with the reason in the 1800s, right, there were lots of different. You need to know all the reasons, right? But the claimed reason, right? The official reason is that it was inconvenient, right? It's inconvenient for people to be arrested if they owe some people money, right? But why? Why not if you owe somebody money? It was the done thing, all the way through the whole of history, up till only a couple of 100 years ago, all through the, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1700s, there's over 500 years there, right? They only stopped it in this big, massive industrial revolution boom, right? And that is to do with poor people and rise of crime and other factors, right? And the rise of more business owners and so forth who didn't want factory workers being on juries, didn't want factory workers arresting them, factory owners, for not paying them their wages, right? And it was worth it to just totally abolish it all, and then workers couldn't arrest each other and get their debts. They couldn't arrest each other when they owed each other money. But, who gives a fuck about working class people, Factory owners didn't give a flying chuff about working class people, whether they arrested each other or not. Let them sort their own debts out. We couldn't give a monkey's chuff. We're the ones who are paying them, as long as they get a privilege. Now, every single factory owner cannot be a member of the House of Lords, right? And be a peer, a life peer. And every single factory owner can't be a member of Parliament, although they're goddamn well trying now to pack the House of Lords out with as many people as they can fit into the damn place, right? But there were a lot more factory owners and a lot more business owners, right? And, with that abolition of Mesny process, it prevented them from being arrested, although, but so it's an inconvenience, whichever side of the political spectrum you're on, right? Whether rich or poor, it was still an inconvenience anyway, right? So they just abolished it. Now, from what Mahmood is pushing with her point of view, and by the way, she's Lord Chancellor at the moment, so, apparently her opinion counts highly, right? She's all for this. What they're doing in Scotland, as well, even in your own house, right? Now, this is, in my opinion, just nuts, right? Because people are just saying things on social media or expressing an opinion, right? Or, these other offences, like possible terrorism that some of these, newspaper editors or whoever, I am not pro newspaper, right? I don't like newspaper editors. I can't stand them. And I don't like TV presenters either. But I'm not saying that, they should all have their computers taken off of them and, be banned from going online, for a certain amount of time, whatever, and being put through all these weird treatments when they haven't been found guilty of anything, right? It might be convenient for the police just to casually get their stuff and, I'll go through it and, I'll leave it till Tuesday at 5 o'clock, even though I'll take it off you now, you know what I mean? And being sent to these processing centres or whatever they're doing now, the police, with all these digital devices and going over and over them. For what? Where does this material come from? Like, everyone was just copying and saving everything off the internet. This is the thing. The inconvenience of it all is so insane that it completely and utterly is beside the... What was the point of abolishing arrest on Mesny process for civil debts if Mahmood thinks that we owe people something? We owe it to someone, I want to see the person who owes me £100. I'm going to go arrest the cunt, I'll go arrest him. This is the thing, This is the thing. I just, my mind is just like, Mahmood, why someone owes her £250? Well, we owe it to her. We owe it to her. Get round there and arrest him, Lord Chancellor. Send the sergeant at Mace around. We owe it to Mahmood. Do you owe him that £250? We owe that £250,000 to Mahmood. Send the sergeant at Mace around immediately. Show him the money, right? Let's bring it back. Bring it back. Oh no, we're trying to, the courts are too full up, This is the thing, the police are going and taking people's, this is the thing, right? The police are going and taking people's stuff, right? Without even a fair trial, just on suspicion, right? You might as well just say that, if the citizens have the powers that the police have got now, what they're giving to them, you could just go around and take your money back, right? On suspicion. Oh, you owe me 150 quid because, I say, right? Beyond, I have reason to believe that you owe me 250 quid. Therefore, why not just send into a court for a warrant and just go get it, right? Oh, I've got my 250 quid back now, right? I'm just going to go off them, but I don't know whether they really do owe me it or not because we haven't had a jury trial or a trial at all. This is the thing, we've been put onto online small claims where it all happens, well, the magic happens, right? This is the thing. And I don't know, Mahmood's talking about, we owe it to them, right? As if it's all about some kind of money or financial debt, compensation, or, I've got whiplash, you owe me, I want, the insurance company now owes me, even though it was an accident, no one did it on purpose, but, I'm owed money, I want money. This is the thing. Crime. A lot of the time is through circumstantial, hardship or bad luck or misfortune. Out of the crimes that are premeditated and purely evil, which are a lot less than, coincidental crime, just drunk at a nightclub and get into an argument or whatever. This is the thing. You can either... And the seriousness of the criminal judicial system, they're wanting to really try and get a fast-track speeding fine style thing for more insignificant crimes, okay, so they can concentrate on more serious crimes, right? But they're saying that in the Crown Court, they're wanting to get rid of jury trials. So, it doesn't make sense. And then at the same time, they're coming up with all these ridiculous new offences. They're creating new petty offences. Like in Scotland, you can't, speak to your own man in your own house, right? And then all these non-hate crime recordings that they're wanting the police to do. What's that taking up time with? What is the end game with this? I think the end game, definitely, without doubt, is that a bunch of MPs sit there, decide what the law is going to be, program a computer, and whoever doesn't comply with it is automatically punished by a system which is set up with cameras giving automatic punishments out, right? And, says who? This is the thing, right? Says who? And what do we learn from that? Well, if machines, I think Mahmood wants AI to try and sort it out. But, humans need to speak to each other, learn about each other, find out why these crimes are happening. Firstly, we know why crime went up because of the industrial boom. They wanted more workers for cheaper, mass production. Skilled people weren't needed anymore, and so forth. And they refused to give them an equal fair share of everything. That's why, you're not going to learn anything by, blocking. You can't even get, if you could get into the school, then you might be able to learn something. Well, the fence is up, we don't want strange people around this school who are trying to learn something. We don't want you to know what we're teaching your kids. This is the thing. Fences around schools is not encouraging learning. It's not like, everyone welcome, come and learn something, It's like, it's keep away strange people. Well, I only live across the road, keep away strange people. Keep away strange people. Well, I only live across the road. Keep away strange people, Don't let the children out. Keep the children locked up. Go away, strange people. This is the thing. These are the messages that they're putting out. It's there definitely is overpopulation in certain areas, but that's better for business as long as they're making more money and making more productivity out of it. They don't care about the consequences. They don't care about people being poor. They just don't care about people. But the whole pitch is like they're trying to make out that it's for the people. It's all about us, our happiness. You see, so in many cases, victims are waiting years to see their perpetrator put before a judge and see how getting justice denied. Well, this is the thing. What we're actually witnessing now, like when we watch that Funky Prepper channel, is we're witnessing people. Mahmood must be, having an orgasm watching that. She must be, she must be ecstatic. A guy who is... people are actually being victimised and punished purely on suspicion now in extraordinary extremes to what punishment even used to be if they were found guilty. Anyway, some people have actually, convicted of, moderate, kind of mid-range crimes, right, and going on community service. And that is not even anywhere near the inconvenience, trauma, and distress that some people are getting merely on suspicion, right? And the things Chattel's taken off them, right? Like, felony, without even getting charged. And they've been forced to agree to all these conditions, which are kind of like sort of quasi-bail conditions, which are actually worse than many punishments once you've been convicted, which is just out of order. It is completely and totally out of order. And it's a little bit like the petitions committee. They're blocking us from collecting signatures and sharing petitions before it's submitted. They're classing it as being submitted before it's completed, sort of, but that's the way they do it now because they can censor it all. Because then, we can't remove these people, and they're committing a lot of crimes and offences in Parliament, and doing things wrong, and they're blocking and preventing us from getting any justice for it. But